my first topic is the materials price variance. So what is a materials price variance? A materials price variance measures the difference between what is paid for a given quantity of materials and what should have been paid according to the standard. So, ang gi-measures ani ang diferensya sa nabayran na ug sa bayron nun nga gamit ang standard niya nga price. So, from this Exhibit 9, for this difference can be expressed by the following formula. So, manay formula dito sa Exhibit 9 for materials price variance equals AQ times AP. So, AQ stands for actual quantity and the AP is this actual price. Then, i-minus din siya sa actual quantity times standard price. So, the formula can be factored as follows. Materials price variance equals actual price minus standard price times actual quantity. So, using the data from Exhibit 9.4, in this formula, we have the following. Materials price variance equals 6,500 pounds. So, 3.80 per pound ang iyahang actual price. Then, minus dayon sa $4 per pound nga standard price times actual quantity nga 6,500 pounds. So, 3.80 minus $4, $3.80 minus $4 is equal to negative 0.20 times 6,500. So, the result will be negative $1,300. But, ang ibutang dili siya negative. Ang sign kundi F or favorable. So, notice that the answer is the same as that shown in Exhibit 9.4. Also note that when using this formula approach, a negative variance is always labeled as favorable or F, and a positive variance is always labeled as unfavorable or U. So, this will be true of all variances formulas in this chapter. So, variance reports are often presented in the forms of a table. An excerpt from Colonial Pewter's variance report is shown below, along with the purchasing manager's explanation for the materials price variance. So, maadayon ni ang report sa Colonial Pewter's Company nga niyahang dagway variance report to purchasing department. So, on the left side, first naka-indicate there is the item purchase, which is pewter or mga alloy or mga aluminum. So, 1 dayon ang quantity purchase. So, pila man to ang quantity purchase is equal to 6,500 pounds. So, ang to actual price, $3.80. So, 3 standard price, $4. And the 4 difference in price. So, i-minus lang ang 2 para makuha ang difference in price. Minus ang 2 and 3. The actual price minus standard price is equal to $0.20. So, the total price variance, para makuha, i-times lang ang 1 and 4. So, 1 times 4, the quantity purchase, and the difference in price. So, din yung result nga, $1,300 favorable. So, ang matutpas explanation ani nga report is bargain for an especially good price. So, next is the isolation of variances. So, So variances should be isolated and brought to the attention of management as quickly as possible so that problems can be promptly identified and corrected. So kinahanglan jud di ay nga ang managers ani magbantay dayon sa mga variance, mga problema. So i-isolate ang mga variances para ma-detect na dayon sa mas dali nga panahon. So the most significant variances should be viewed as red flags. So red flags karing mga dinagko na kayo nga mga variances. So, an exception has occurred that requires explanation by the responsible manager and perhaps follow-up effort. So the performance report itself may contain explanation for the variances. So dapat na ay explanation pareha diri sa kuan gibuhatan ng Colonial Pewters Company. Nganong naing-ana ang iyahang kuan, iyahang variance kay gibargain ban in the special good price. So mo na ang illustrate sa report. In the case of Colonial Pewters Company, the purchasing manager said that the favorable price variance resulted from the beginning for an especially good price. So, the next, responsibility for the variance. So, who is the responsible for the materials price variance? Generally speaking, the purchasing manager has control over the price paid for the good and is therefore responsible for the materials price variance. So, purchasing managers mao ang responsible ani mga variances. So, many factors influence the price paid for good, including how many units are ordered, how the order is delivered, whether the order is a rush order, and the quantity of materials purchased. So, if any of these factors deviates from what was assumed when the standards were set, so a price variance can result. So, for example, purchasing second-grade materials rather than top-grade materials may result in a favorable price variance, because the lower grade materials may be less costly. However, we should keep in mind that the lower grade materials may create production problems. And however, someone other than the purchasing manager could be responsible for a materials price variance. So, for example, due to production problems beyond the purchasing manager's control, the purchasing manager may have to use express delivery in these cases. The production manager should be held responsible for the resulting price variance. So, the production managers maopoy responsibly sa isapod nga responsable sa materials price variance. So, a word of caution is in order. Variance analysis should not be used to assign blame. The emphasis should be supporting the line managers and assisting them in meeting the goals that they have participated in settings for the company. In short, the emphasis should be positive rather than negative. So, excessive dwelling on what has already happened, particularly in terms of trying to find someone to blame, can destroy morale and kill any cooperative spirit. The next is the materials quantity variance. So, what is materials quantity variance? So, the materials quantity variance measures the difference between the quantity of materials used in production and the quantity should have been used according to the standard. So, kung ganina, sa materials price variance, ang gi-measures niya is ang the difference between what is paid for a given quantity of materials and what should have been paid according to the standard. Ang diri sa materials quantity variance, ang gi-measures niya is the difference between the quantity of materials. So ang gidaghanon sa mga materials nga nagamit sa production o ang gadaghanon and the quantity that should have been used. So ang dapat unta nga magamit ra according to the standard. So although the variance is concerned with the physical usage of materials as shown in Exhibit 9.4, it is generally stated in dollar terms to help gauge its importance. So the formula for the materials quantity variance is as follows. So kinahanglan kung manotice nato nga naa jud siya sa dollar terms, naa jud siya dollar signs aron mas matagaan jud siya og sana malugit or makuan jud ang kaimportante, maunang naka-dollar sign gyud ang mga variances. So materials quantity variance equals, makita na to, AQ times SP. So AQ mamaning actual quantity, SP standard price, i-minus siya sa standard quantity times standard price. So again, the formula can be factored as follows. So materials quantity variance, so AQ minus SQ, actual quantity minus standard quantity times standard price. So yan yun pagkuha materials price variance. So using materials quantity variance, using the data from Exhibit 9.4 in the formula, we have the following. Standard quantity equals 2,000 units times 3 pounds per unit equals 6,000 pounds. So materials quantity variance equals 4 per pound. So 6,500 pounds minus 600 pounds is equal to $2,000 and favorable. So the answer, of course, is the same as shown in Exhibit 9.4. So the data might appear as follows if formal variance report were prepared. So ingani pod ang dagway kung naanay kuan mag-prepared na sa variance report to production department. So dere na jud na siya itong tan-aon jud permanente nga dere sa ibabaw naka-indicate yun na kung unsa nga company, then unsa dayon ni siya nga klase sa report. So dere is Colonial Pewter Company variance report to production department. So again, there is a left side types of materials, pewter, 1 standard price for dollar, actual quantity 6,500 pounds, and then entry standard quantity allowed 6,000 pounds, and the difference in quantity, of course, minus ra nato ning 2 and 3, which is the actual quantity, and the standard quantity allowed is equal to 5,000 pounds. So no money, 6,500 minus 6,000 is equal to 500 pounds ang iyahang variance. So the total quantity variance is times lang N1, the standard price, and the difference in quantity, which is 500. So 500 times $4 is equal to $2,000 unfavorable ang iyahang variance. So according to the report, ang explanation ani is low quality materials and suitable for production. So dili mao ni hinungdan nga nung ingani ang iyang variance kay low ang materials nga ilahang ginagamit. So dili siya suitable ani nga production. So it is best to isolate the materials quantity variance when materials are used in production. So materials are drawn for the number of units to be produced according to the standard bill of materials for each unit. Any additional materials are usually drawn with an excess materials requisition slip, which is different in color from normal requisition slips. So this procedure calls attention to the excessive usage of materials while production is still in process and provides an opportunity to correct any developing problems. So excessive materials usage can result from many factors. So daghan siya mga factors. So including faulty machines, kaguba nga machine, inferior materials quality, and trained workers, dili pa kay kabalong mga trabahante, or poor supervision o kanang kulang sa pag-supervise sa mga managers. So generally speaking, it is the responsible of the production department to see that materials usage is kept in line with the standards. So there may be times, however, when the purchasing department is responsible for an unfavorable materials quantity variance. So kani siya nga trabaho kinanglan sa kuan pud ni siya nga lines na purchasing department. So for example, if the purchasing department buys inferior materials at lower price, the materials may be unsuitable for use and may result in excessive waste. So mas daghan ang iyang daot, mas daghan ang iyang scrap bali kung lower materials ang gagamiton. So thus purchasing rather than production would be responsible for the quantity variance. So mas may na lang kung palit kaysa buhaton. Mas fit niya ang paliton kaysa buhaton. So at Colonial Pewter, the production manager Tom Kochil claimed on the production department's performance report that low quality materials were the cause of the unfavorable materials quantity variance for June. So tungod sa low quality materials, maong daghan o maong dako ang iyang variances kay daghan man siya og mga waste or scrap. So next is the using standard cost to direct labor variances. Terry Sherman's next step is to determining Colonial Pewter's variances for June was to compute the direct labor variances for the month. So recall from Exhibit 9.2 that the standard direct labor cost per unit of product is $35 computed as follows. So 2.5 hours per unit times $14 per hour is equal to $35 per unit. So during June, the company paid its direct labor workers worth $74,250, including employment taxes and fringe benefits, for 5,400 hours of work. So this was an average of 13.75 per hour. Using this data and the standard cost from Exhibit 9.2, Terry computed the direct labor rate and efficiency variances that appear in Exhibit 9.6. So makita nato niya sa Exhibit 9.6. So notice that the column headings in Exhibit 9.6 are the same as those used in the prior two exhibits. The that in Exhibit 9.6, the terms hours and rate are used in place for terms quantity and price. So labor rate variance. So as explained earlier, the price variance for direct labor is commonly called the labor rate variance. This variance measures any deviation from standard in the average hourly rate paid to direct labor workers. So the formula for the labor rate variance is expressed as follows. So labor rate variance equals AH times ER. So AH stands for actual hours and the ER is the actual rate. So minus din siya ang actual hours times standard rate. So the formula can be factored as follows. Labor rate variance equals ER minus SR times AH. So using the data from Exhibit 9.6 in the formula, the labor rate variance can be computed as follows. So labor rate variance equals 5,400 hours. So 13.75 per hour, $13.75 per hour mo ni siya ang actual hour minus $14 per hour nga standard hour. So 13.75 minus $14 per hour times ang result din ani niya 13.75 minus 14 is equal to negative 0.25 times 5,400. So mo ang result nga $1,300 favorable. So mo ni ang Exhibit 9.6 variance analysis to direct labor. So naka-indicate the actual hours of input at the actual rate. So AH times AR. So ang actual hours is 5,400 hours times actual rate nga 13.75 per hour equals to $74,250. So ang actual hours of input at the standard rate, so AH times SR. So actual hour times standard rate. So ang actual hour is 5,400 hours times 400 per hour is equal to $75,600. So standard hours allowed for actual output as the standard rate. So standard hour times standard rate. So yung standard hours is dapat 5,000 hours lang. So i-times na yun sa $14 per hour is equal to $70,000. Then diri dayon sa ubos naka-indicate rate variance is equal to $1,300 favorable. So asa man ni siya gikan ang $1,350 favorable. So ano ni siya i-minus ang 13.75 nga actual rate minus standard rate, then times dayon sa actual hour. So mo na result nga $1,350 favorable. So ang actual hour niya is 5,400. Efficiency variance. Ang efficiency variance is equal to $5,600 unfavorable. So, ang manigikan ang $5,600 unfavorable. Dari ni siya sa actual hour nga 5,400 minus standard hour nga 5,000. So minus lang ni sila, ang result dayon ani is 400 times the standard hour nga 14. So mao dayon ni ang result $5,600 unfavorable. So the total variance is 4,250 unfavorable. Asa naman po nagikan ang $4,250 unfavorable? Gi-minus rani ang rate variance minus efficiency variance. So $1,350 nga rate variance minus efficiency variance nga 5,600 unfavorable, mao niyang total nga variance $4,250 unfavorable. 2,000 units times 5 hours per unit is equal to 5,000 hours. So ano siya ang standard. If equals favorable, U equals unfavorable. So, nga niyang iyang tsura. Then, in most companies, the wage rates paid to workers are quite predictable. So, nevertheless, rate variances can arise because of the way labor is used. So, depende dahil sa tungod sa kuan paggamit sa oras nga trabahante. Skilled workers with high hourly rates of pay may given duties that require little skill and call for lower hourly rates of pay. So this will result in an unfavorable labor rate variance because the actual hourly rate of pay will exceed the standard rate specified for the particular task. So mas taas ang iyang paggamit sa oras. Wala na natukma gyud sa iyang standard hours ra gyud nga gi-required. So, in contrast, a favorable rate variance would result when workers who are paid at a rate lower than specified in the standard are assigned to the task. However, the lower paid workers may not be as efficient. So, finally, overtime work at premium rates will result in an unfavorable rate variance if the overtime premium is charged to the direct labor account. So, who is responsible for controlling the labor rate variance? Because the labor rate variances generally arise as a result of how labor is used, so the production supervisor are usually responsible for seeing that labor rate variances are kept under control. So kani nga trabaho po dahil sa production the production supervisors should always oversee kung anong naing-ana siya katagas ang kuan mga variance niya sa labor. So labor efficiency variance, the labor efficiency variance attempts to measure the productivity of direct labor. No variance is more closely watched by management because it is widely believed that increasing direct labor productivity is vital to reducing cost. So the formula for the labor efficiency variance is expressed as follows. So labor efficiency variance equals AH times SR minus SH times SR. So the formula can be factored as follows. So labor efficiency variance equals actual hours minus standard hours, then ang result i-times ra dayon sa standard rate. So using the data from exhibit 9.6 in the formula, we have the following. Ang standard hour ato is 5,000 units times 2.5 hour per unit is equal to 5,000 hours. So, labor efficiency variance equals 14 per hour. Minus ra dayon ang standard hour, actual hour minus standard hour is equal to 400. Kaya 5,400 man minus 5,000 is equal to 400 times standard rate nga $14. So the result will be $5,600 unfavorable. So possible causes of an unfavorable labor efficiency variance include poorly trained or motivated workers. So kanang wala kaayoy kahibalo nga mga trabahante. Isa pud hinungdan ang poor quality materials, kanang mga materials nga dili siya ingana kalig-on. Dili siya standard ang iyang mga materials, mura lang siya mga second degree. So requiring more labor time, faulty equipment, causing breakdowns and work interruptions. So poor supervision of workers, kanang kulang sila kulang og supervise, isa pud na nga hinungdan, and inaccurate standards. The managers in charge of production would usually be responsible for control of the labor efficiency variance. However, the purchasing managers could be held responsible if the purchase of poor quality materials result in excessive labor processing time. So another important cause of an unfavorable labor efficiency variance may be insufficient demand for the company's products. So isa po din mga insufficient demands for company's products. Managers in some companies argue that it is difficult and perhaps unwise to constantly adjust the workforce in response to charge in the amount of work that needs to be done. So in such companies, the direct labor workforce is essentially fixed in the short run. So dapat mas dali siya mahuman. If demand is insufficient to keep everyone busy, workers are not laid off, and unfavorable labor efficiency variance will often be recorded. So if customers' orders are insufficient to keep the workers busy, the work center managers has two options. Sunay duha ka options. Either accept the unfavorable labor efficiency variance to build inventory. Ang ikaduha, a central lesson for lean production is that building inventory with no immediate prospect of sale is bad idea. So, di pud maayo kung kanang daghan kaayo og product nga dili na siya in demand. So, excessive inventory particularly work in process. Inventory leads to a high defect rates, obsolete goods, and inefficient operations. As a consequence, when the workforce is basically fixed in the short term, managers must be cautious about how labor efficiency variances are used. In some reports, advises eliminating labor efficiency variances in such situation, at least for the purposes of motivating and controlling workers on the shop floors. Using standard cost of variable manufacturing overhead variances. The final step in Terry Sherman's analysis of Colonial Pewter's variances for June was to compute the variable manufacturing overhead variances. So the variance portion of manufacturing overhead can be analyzed using the same basic formula that we use to analyze direct materials and direct labor. So So recall from Exhibit 9.2 that the standard variable manufacturing overhead is $7.50 per unit of product. So computed as follows. 2.5 hours per unit times 3 per hours is equal to $7.50 per unit. So, Colonial Pewter's cost recorded showed that the total actual variable manufacturing overhead cost for June was $15,390. So recall from the earlier discussion of the direct labor variances that 5,400 hours of direct labor time were recorded during the month, and the company produced 2,000 pairs of bookends. So Thayer's analysis of this overhead data appears in Exhibit 9.7. Notice the similarities between Exhibit 9.6 and 9.7. These similarities arise from the fact that direct labor hours are being used as the base for allocating overhead costs to units of product. Thus, the same earlier figures appear in Exhibit 9.7 for variable manufacturing overhead as in Exhibit 9.6 for direct labor. So the main difference between the two exhibits is in the standard hourly rate being used, which is the company is much lower for variable manufacturing overhead than for direct labor. So, mo ni ang Exhibit 9.7. Actual hours of input at the actual rate is equal to EH or EH times ER, so equals $15,390. So, ang actual hour of input at the standard rate, actual hour times SR is equal to 5,400 hours times 3 per hour is equal to 16,200. So standard hours allowed for actual input at the standard rate is equal or is each times SR. So 5,000 hours, the standard hour times $3 per unit, thus is equal to $15,000. So rare variable is equal to $810 favorable. So minus rani ang $15,390 minus $16,200 is equal to $810 favorable. So efficiency variance is 1,200 and favorable. So 5,400 the actual hour dayon minus the standard hour na 5,000 is equal to 400 times standard rate nga $3 per hour on iyahang result nga 1,200 and favorable ang iyahang efficiency variances. Total variance same ra gyapon sa Exhibit 9.6 nga i-minus ra ang pair variance and the efficiency variance, so the result of the total variance is $390 unfavorable sa variable manufacturing overhead variances. So manufacturing overhead variances, so the formula for the variable overhead rate variance is expressed as follows. Variable overhead rate variance equals EH times ER minus EH times SR. So the formula can be factored as follows. Variable overhead rate variance is equal to ER minus SR times EH. So using the data from Exhibit 9.7 in the formula, the variable overhead rate can be computed as follows. So yung actual rate is equal to $15,300 times 5, divide 5,400 hours is equal to 2.85 per hour. So variable overhead rate variance equals 5,400 hours. 2.85 per hour minus $3 per hour is equal to $810 favorable. Then the formula for the variable overhead efficiency variance is expressed as follows. So variable overhead efficiency variance equals EH times SR minus SH times SR. So this formula can be factored as follows. Variable overhead efficiency variance equals EH minus SH times SR. So again, using the data from Exhibit 9.7, the variance can be computed as follows. So standard R niya is morning 2,000 units. So i-times that sa dayon sa 2.5 hour per unit is equal to 5,000 hours. So variable overhead efficiency variance equals $3 per hour man to. Then 5,400 hours nga actual hour minus 5,000 standard hours is equal to 400 times $3 per hour nga standard rate. So equals $1,200 unfavorable. So the interpretation of the variable overhead variances is not as clear as the direct materials and the direct labor variances. In particular, the variable overhead efficiency variance is exactly the same as the direct labor efficiency variance, except for one detail. The rate that is used to translate the variance into dollars. In both cases, the variance is difference between the actual hours worked and the standard hours allowed for the actual output. The case of the direct labor efficiency variance, this difference is multiplied by the direct labor rate. So in the case of variable overhead efficiency variance, this difference is multiplied by the variable overhead rate. So when direct labor is used as the base of overhead, whenever the direct labor efficiency variance is favorable, the variable overhead efficiency variance will be favorable. And with the direct labor efficiency variance is unfavorable. So the variable overhead efficiency variance will be unfavorable. Indeed, the variable overhead efficiency variance really doesn't tell us anything about how efficiency overhead resources were used. It depends solely on how efficiency direct labor was used. Before proceeding further, we suggest that you pause at this point and go back to review the data contained in Exhibit 9.2 through 9.7. So these exhibits and the accompanying text is discussion provide a comprehensive integrated illustration of standard setting and various analysis. So next is variance analysis and management by exception. Variance analysis and performance reports are important elements of management by exception, which is an approach that emphasizes focusing on these areas of responsibility where goals and expectations are not being met. The budgets and standards discussion in this chapter and the preceding chapter reflect management plans. If all goes according to plan, there will be little difference between actual result and the result that would expected according to the budgets and standards. So if this happens, managers can concentrate on other issues. However, if actual result do not conform to the budget and to standards, the performance reporting system send a signal to managers that an exception has occurred. So this signal is the form of variance from the budget or standards. However, are all variances worth investigating? The answer is no. Differences between actual result and what was expected will almost always occur. If every variances were investigated, management would waste a great deal of time tracking down nickel and time differences. So variances may occur for a variety of reasons. So nagdepende kung dako na jud kayo, so kinahanglan na imbestigahan ang mga variances. Only some of which are significant and worthy of managers' attention. So for example, better than which are significant and worthy of management's attention. For example, better than normal weather in the summer may result a higher than expected electrical bills for conditioning. Our workers may work slightly faster or slower on particular day because of unpredictable random factors. One can accept this. Virtually every cost category will produce a variance of some kind. So, kung tanaw na to ang exhibit 9.8, sa unfavorable o favorable, sa favorable diri siya sa ni point sa 17. So lagpas na kaayo, kinahanglan na ni siya imbestigahan. So diri po sa unfavorable na siya sa 7. Ug dapat jud diri sa unfavorable, diri sa favorable nga 11. So kaning 7, 11 ug 17 mao na siya kinahanglan na jud ni sa imbestigahan. Pwede na ni siya mag-indicate of red flags. And that's all my reports.